just wait. This is for how long this went on. I'm telling you, I work in that. You don't realize how much your hospitals get away with. They're constantly being charged, many of them, with Medicare fraud, by the way. Yeah, many of their vice presidents or people somewhere in the executive branch have often, especially in the past, 8 years or so, have been caught, embezzling money and many criminal activities. But they usually don't care. Like, Medicare fraud is nothing to a hospital. Seriously, it's not. I mean, it's not something they want to deal with, but they know it's just, yep, we'll pay the money, end of story. That's why it doesn't do any good. But you have to listen to this, because the government seems to be going after them in a different way. It's just, here, let me read. It's really short, because it just came out. So the Virginia Regional Medical Center on January 28th pleaded not guilty to charges of healthcare fraud, conspiracy to defraud the US, and interfering with government functions. A spokesman for the hospital confirmed. The hospital, part of Chesapeake Regional Healthcare, is accused of allowing a physician to perform unnecessary surgeries for nearly a decade. Prosecutors allege the hospital knowingly enabled Javier Perwaz, MD, a former OBGYN, convicted for healthcare fraud in 2021, despite concerns about his billing practices and a history of misconduct. Between 2010 and 2019, the hospital allegedly received $18.5 million in reimbursement for procedures he performed, including unnecessary hysterectomies and improper sterilizations. Quote, as we have maintained from the onset, the government case is unfounded and an excessive overreach, and we are confident we will prevail in court, said a spokesperson for the hospital. I don't think so. I don't think they will. In a motion filed to dismiss the lawsuit, and get this, the hospital denied the conspiracy and fraud charges and argued that it is asserting legal defenses to protect its right as a Virginia state entity. So what that means is, and this is part of what's happened to America, is your private sector, your corporations, many, many decades ago, went to court to say we should be seen as a human being. That's why you really don't stand a chance up against the big corporations, because they're seen just, you're a human, you're a real human being. But that organization, they won. They're seen as a human being. Yeah, it's wrong. It's what's hurt America. It's one of the things. But that's what's helped them be able to get away with so much that they do, the corporation end. That's why they're saying this. So I'm going to read that again, because they're not denying the charges that this guy did this. What they're saying is, in a motion filed to dismiss the lawsuit, the hospital denied the conspiracy and fraud charges and argued that it is asserting legal defenses to protect its right as a Virginia state entity. The hospital emphasizes that it does not assert these defenses to avoid responding to the indictment's factual allegations or to circumvent responsibility for alleged criminal conduct, the hospital said in the documents. Indeed, the hospital categorically rejects as false the charges that it engaged in conspiracy and fraud. It asserts these threshold defenses, however, to safeguard and preserve important legal rights conferred upon it as an arm of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Yeah, because I think what there's jail. That's what's got to happen. You will not get these hospitals to stop these executives, because they have been in positions of almost having more power than any of our leaders. And so it's one thing to be in the private sector and be an ethical or an organization. then you have a lot of freedoms, but you don't get to just constantly abuse and take advantage. And I think that what's different here is how often do you hear I all the time read about Medicare charges against different hospital that are being charged with Medicare fraud, but conspiracy to defraud the US, I think that would hold jail time. And interfering with government functions, I'm pretty sure that's what they're arguing, because they're not denying that this doctor who they shouldn't have continued to let do surgeries, who did for 10 years unnecessary hysterectomies and improper sterilizations. They're not denying that. What they're trying to save themselves from, I think, is jail time, because they are interfering with government functions, and especially, as they said, the conspiracy to defraud the US. So that's why this administration is going to be very different. And it's not because they're dictators. It's because, no, we need order back. We need things to be, after what I saw the hospitals do in 2020 to Trump, my first thought before I was waking up to all of it, but didn't have all the connections and dots together yet. But all I thought is, what's the point of electing someone if these people just do whatever they want? Like, they never should have been allowed to monopolize these hospitals. But they knew people in the Federal Trade Commission, so they got around it that way. But all of that, so that's why people like me say, no, it's corrupted at every level. That's why Joint Commission that goes into hospitals. Yeah, if the government, if a legit government, if Trump's government wants to put people like me and bedside people in Joint Commission, yeah, we'll really take care of the safety issues, because Joint Commission is a joke. It's a joke. Because these hospitals know they can still get away with whatever they want. I mean, the hospitals make this big deal, oh, Joint's coming in, because they want to scare the workers, okay? But they're never held accountable, because I've worked, especially at the last place, it's like, you're still open? And even Joint Commission was coming back into their hospital because of things because everything they focus on isn't the things that should be focused on. That's the problem. I don't know what model Joint Commission uses, but it clearly is one, because none of this, like how is it that a doctor was able to get away with so many surgeries for 10 years? He was a former OBG, and yet for 10 years, unnecessary hysterectomies and improper sterilization. So all the hospital cared about was the money. That's why. That's all they cared about, because nobody ever does anything to the healthcare systems. Nobody does. They literally can get away with anything. So everybody that thinks that they're so on the up and up, no, they just talk a good game. That's what they do. I work in them. I'm not trying to say that the people at the bedside are bad. They're not the problem. They know, I've been saying, it's the executive part of the hospitals. These people are criminal many times. And then you have your chief nursing officers that don't have an ethical backbone. They don't have a moral compass. And they just, no, I'll get away with it. And I think I've said for a few years now, I think what's going to happen is the veil's going to be lifted, and it's not going to just show that these hospitals have been up to things that the country is really going to be upset about. This is just a drop in the bucket. But you're going to find out, how could there be so many people in leadership positions that went along with this? That's why Jesus said the root of all evil is money, it's money. Root of all evil is money. Because when you will sacrifice your own values, when you will sacrifice what you know you shouldn't do for that paycheck, then it's like you sell a little piece of your soul, little by little. I think all of them are going to be exposed. I've been saying that for 3 years.